Welcome to the Understanding and Accepting the Diagnosis module. This is the first of our video module series designed by a team from the UC Davis Center for Excellence in Developmental Disabilities, also known as the CED, and community partners and parents, specifically to support the individual needs of African American families of children with developmental disabilities in the state of California. The UC Davis CED at the Mind Institute is working with families to reduce health disparities in early intervention access through a one-year grant from the California Department of Developmental Services Disparity Funds Program. The Disparities Funds Program supports projects that aim to increase equity in service access through reducing disparities and promoting equitable access to services and supports for all families of children with developmental disabilities in California. My name is Elizabeth Morgan, and I work here at the CED, but I'm also a parent of a child with developmental disabilities. In the series of these videos, you will meet several of my friends and colleagues. In this module, you will meet families, self-advocates, and professionals. You will hear and learn from their experiences of navigating a diagnosis to support children with developmental disabilities. Listen to Nakia, a mother of three, tell her story of receiving a developmental disability diagnosis for her daughter and the process she went through to becoming an advocate. Thank you, Nakia, for sharing your story. Can we start off with you telling us a little bit about your first reaction when you first got the news that your child had a developmental disability?
My first reaction when I received the diagnosis was fear. I never really went through denial just because, it was obvious, like she had issues. So, I just took the help. Once I got past the fear, I just really was open to just learning and the resources and understanding everything. It probably took a few years for me to really get comfortable with it, because I was just more scared. Like I said, just with how she was going to develop. Being my first child, I was more scared just because I was still, at the same time learning how to parent and learning about, disabilities. So, I was really nervous about how it would affect her life, how I would handle it, not knowing if I, like what I was doing at the time.
So I know being a parent of a child with a developmental disability has both its good days and its bad days. So Nakia, can you tell us about something you love about your child and how that helps you get through some of those tough days?
She's such a happy child, and nothing gets her down. Like, she'll even say, I know I'm different, I have a disability, but it doesn't seem to affect her. So, that kind of helps me not be sad or depressed or think negatively about it, because she's overall, she very rarely gets upset or down about anything.
So what do you wish that someone would have told you when you first learned that your child had a diagnosis?
There are resources out there, and I know what I've been told, just coming along. There's a lot of resources out there, but if you don't speak up, you may not know. So it's always good to just find out as much as you can, especially with the school district, and just having the IEP and how they set it up and how it's open and whatever, it's for the parents, for whatever you may need. And just always ask a lot of questions, and whatever comes your way, I would say just go with it.
This is Safia's story about receiving an autism diagnosis for her daughter and her process of accepting the diagnosis. So Safia, can you tell us how you believe having a child with a developmental disability has changed you for the better?
The one thing that this diagnosis changed my life, it made me feel like the things that wasn't important in life, it helped me let those things go. I used to be a hairstylist, and I don't have hair. Hair just became not an important thing. And I started focusing on the things that mattered, like caring for people, being there for people, because I wasn't there for people. I really wasn't there for people the way I am now. And so her diagnosis gave me a heart. you know, and a concern for people outside of my home.
So I know sometimes having labels can feel hurtful as being a parent, because it's almost like they're trying to put your child in a category or a box. So Sophia, can you tell me why you learned that having a label is important and how having that label has actually helped you get the services your child needs?
The diagnosis was very important to me because when I talked to other people about it, they just wanted to assure me it was nothing wrong. Like, leave her alone, it's nothing wrong, but my instincts as a mom kicked in. And because of that, she was able to receive a lot of good services as far as early intervention. She was able to do a lot. She's able to take care of herself. She's able to look me in my eyes and all those things that is associated with the stigma of autism. And I think that's why it's really important. When I first found out she was autistic, I had no direction to help her. I didn't even know if she could be helped. So when I did get the diagnosis, at least it got the ball rolling with what I needed to do to help her just basically be able to function within a house and outside and things like that. So that was really important.
Parenting is hard, but when you add in the additional layers of having a child who is culturally diverse and also has a developmental disability, it can make the experience even more challenging. Listen to my own family's account through my husband's point of view. So Jerome, can you tell us a little bit about your reaction and process to accepting the diagnosis for our son?
I mean, the moment that he had got the diagnosis, I accepted it at that moment. Of course, there's always hope that things could be different, or maybe there's something he may, grow out of. Those are thoughts that go through your mind. But at the same time, I mean, it was sort of like, okay, this is what he has. Let's, move forward and let's get the support that he needs. And I always say that, my son has autism, but autism doesn't have him. And so, getting him those supports and being able to do that was, I think, helpful for us.
So Jerome, can you talk about how our child and our family's race and culture has influenced your experience of being a father of a child with a developmental disability?
It always does. Even without the disability, it does. So I think for certain, but even adding the disability is a heightened sensitivity because of the challenges of being a black man and just being able to make sure that my child is going to be protected, that he's going to learn how to be able to survive and navigate through the system, being able to navigate through his neighborhood, being able to not be perceived in a certain way, being able to be himself. And then you add on the disability that kind of even brings even more attention. It can be something that can be a challenge, and at the same time, it's just something that is a part of our lives and something that we constantly talk about, that we have to be aware of and making sure that we communicate. I do know that in the African American community, sometimes it's hard to even talk about disabilities, and we're not so open about these things, but being able to be open, being able to be, and I recognize that and normalize it, that it's common, that it's not uncommon. It's not just common for our culture, but for other cultures that experience this as well. But being able to be open is important as well. So I think that it's just, it's a constant adjustment, constant, again, awareness, constant conversations, and then a lot of introspection on my part as well, making sure that I'm aware of where I'm at in that process and being able to have conversations with my son as appropriate.
So what words of encouragement would you like to give to families who are just receiving a diagnosis for their child of having a developmental disability?
It's going to be very challenging. There's going to be a lot of, there is sort of what you call, a grieving process, I believe, when you have, especially I think being a dad, if you have these expectations, for me, in my case, it's my son, in some cases it might be your daughter, but there may be these expectations that you've had, and then you might start to feel as though those expectations won't get met. Will he be able to play basketball? Will we be able to, have certain conversations? And so all those things are going to go through your mind, and I think it's going to be natural to feel that way. And so I think that it's important to recognize that, you're human and that it's okay to have a certain level of disappointment. But then also to recognize that there's hope, that it's not the end of the world, and all the things that you expect can happen. They just won't be able to happen maybe in the way that you thought. It's going to be a new way, right? And so sometimes life throws us curveballs, and we have to learn how to adjust. And so be willing to make the adjustments, but don't lose your expectations. Don't lose your hope for what your child can become.
Parents are not the only people that are impacted, but we must also think about grandparents and siblings also. Listen to the story of James, an older brother of a child with a developmental disability. Tell how the diagnosis impacted him and how he learned to accept and become an advocate for his brother.
Being the older brother of someone who's autistic, it's made me grow up very fast. When I was 6, that's when I learned that my brother was diagnosed with autism. And my mom explained it to me that there would be times that it might feel like that she's not there for me, and she wanted to let me know that's not the case, but it's that my brother will need more help. And to me, I kind of took that as, okay, that's fine. I guess to me it was more of like, that's how my life is, that is my job to help him. If it means I get less attention, I don't need a lot of attention. That's the way my head works. So I think having an autistic brother really made me grow up very, very fast. And made me mature, and it kind of made me realize that, I don't know, the way things are, if you can't change them, you make the best of them and you learn from it. Not to say that, having a brother with disability is a bad thing, but I mean, it's always an experience. And you learn from the experience, you grow from it, and you try to make every day the best it can be.
So James, can you tell us a story about your brother Christopher that makes you laugh?
So like I said, a lot of times people don't think Christopher's listening, or that he's not really understanding what's happening around him or know what people are saying. But every now and then, like if something funny is said, he'll laugh, but not just like a little laugh, like he'll crack up laughing. And when I say it's the funniest thing, I'm really not joking. Like it's, cause like there'll be times when I'm talking to my mom, it's not like we're ignoring him, it's just like we're talking about something. And we remember something funny that happened, or we're commenting on something funny, and he'll be listening, he'll just start laughing, and we'll just look at him and like, yeah, And I don't know, different things like that where like, it's almost like we were socially programmed to think that he couldn't understand. And obviously we know he does, and those moments, it's like really joyous because it's our minds are like, okay, yeah, no, you totally understand. But at the same time, you laughed at the exact right moment. That just makes the whole thing funny. Like even if he wasn't autistic, it would have been a funny moment because of when he laughed. The fact that there's like all these social expectations of him not being able to understand it, and he's breaking them all at once, just makes it twice as funny.
Next, we will hear from Lisa Cooley. Lisa is a woman born with spastic cerebral palsy and is one of Northern California's outstanding disability activists. Lisa, what would you like to make sure that parents who are watching this video know about how to understand and support their child with a disability?
It's important to let them know that their child is a disability is only part of your child. Don't forget to celebrate all of the parts of your child that makes your child unique and special and wonderful and lovable. Your attitude will eventually determine what attitude your son or daughter has about themselves and their disability.
We will end this module with some words from Dr. Jane Paul, a licensed board-certified behavior analyst that has worked to support children with various developmental disabilities in the Sacramento area. Dr. Jane is also the co-founder of an organization named the Pan-African Congress on Autism, or PACA. This is a part of a movement to spread autism awareness and acceptance in over 20 African countries. Dr. Jane, what advice do you give to families that you work with shortly after they've received a diagnosis of a developmental disability for their child? And what type of encouraging stories might you have for families that actually took your advice?
I cannot tell you how many times we sit down with parents and I say, okay, so your child has autism. Is that, what else? That doesn't mean that they can't do anything. They are smart. What are some of his strengths? How can we channel those strengths into what he can be in the future? Some of them are really good with computers. How can we actually channel that to something that can actually sustain him later? And I remember one boy I worked with, and he was this classic autism. He loves computers, he loves games, and his dad has an IT business. And we had a talk with him, and I said, what are some goals you have for your son? He didn't like computers, he can design games, he makes really nice PowerPoints for school. What are some of the, do you think you can actually engage him in your business? Now, 5 years later, he is in college, and he now travels with dad. He's the one who designs dad's PowerPoint. He's the one who, when he's doing the presentation, he is the one who controls that. Now he has a full-time job. He fit right in the family, but dad had not thought about that before.
This is the first module of our series, and we hope you found it helpful. Each of these modules are designed to address common questions and concerns for and by parents, family members of African American children, and as well as professionals that support them. But we think that most of the information is applicable for many other communities. I will close with a quote that I found helpful when I first received diagnosis for my own child. This quote is from Temple Grandin, an autistic woman who is a professor, author, and advocate. She says that this is the message that her mother, Eustacia Cutler, taught her that helped her see her differences not as deficits but as assets. This helped me because with my own son, I recognized how important it was for me to learn to accept his diagnosis and get him the proper supports while always appreciating him as a person and his contributions to our family and to our community. This journey is not an easy one, but it is also not as difficult when you have the right information and support to help make the decisions that are right for you, your child, and your family. Take some time to process this module, and when you are ready, talk to other parents or a member of your child's intervention team. You are welcome to review these modules at your own pace and watch them in the order that fits your personal needs. Remember, you got this, and you have a community of people like myself who have your back. See you soon.